Hey Toy fans, D21Beast here, back with another figure review for you guys here today. And today we're looking at the Star Wars Black Series Jakku Finn, Jakku Rey, and Poe Dameron. Now you guys may remember a couple of weeks back I did a video showing a bunch of figures that Jeff has sent me, and I figured why not review our new trio of protagonists for Star Wars The Force Awakens in the same video. At least, maybe they're all good guys, who knows, the movie's not out yet. Special thanks to Jeff for sending these figures along for review today, and let's get things started by taking a look at the packaging for these figures. As you come down the front of each one of these boxes, you do have that Star Wars Black Series logo there at the top. You then have a window box packaging that does house each figure inside as well as their accessories. On the lower right hand side of the packaging, you do have an image of the figure inside as well as their name off to the bottom left. Turning these boxes to the side, we can see that each figure in this line is numbered. Finn is number 1, Rey is number 2, and Poe is number 7. Then as we come down the back of this packaging, you have that Star Wars logo one more time, followed by the bio for each one of these figures. Go ahead and pause now for Finn, pause now for Rey, and pause now for Poe. And then each package finishes off with the legal jargon there towards the bottom. Alright Force fans, well that's the packaging. Let's say we get this trio, and let's not forget BB-8 out of their packaging and see what they're all about. Alright Toy fans, now we've got our heroes out of the packaging, and these guys look fantastic. For me, the sculpting is far and away the best highlight of each one of these figures, but the paint's not too bad either. Looking at Finn, I think he's got a great head sculpt, definitely looks like actor John Boyega. And coming down the figure, you can see that he's got an excellent amount of sculpted detail on his jacket and on his shirt. There's even sort of a reddish, almost paint wash going on throughout the jacket. There's some red paint that's been applied to the right shoulder and the left breast of this jacket, and even some silver paint applied to the buckles. And I like the overall color of the jacket itself, looks just like it did in the trailer. Now I do think it's worth noting that the jacket we have on Finn here doesn't exactly match in color to the jacket that's on a Target exclusive Poe Dameron figure. I'm not sure if that's screen accurate. I haven't seen both of them wearing the jacket at the same time in the trailer. Maybe it's the same jacket, who knows. But if there's some sort of canonical reason for that mismatch in color, let me know in the comments below. Continuing down the rest of this figure, we see some excellent sculpted detail in the pants for this Finn figure. There's even some painted sand detail around his ankles. And then we've got some nice sculpted shoes on this figure that seem to have a paint wash running over them. And the back of this figure looks equally as great. While there's not a lot of extra detail going on aside from the sculpting, we do still have that same wash on the jacket and even the sand detail around the ankles on the back of the pants. Rey is actually the figure that I think surprises me the most from these three. Based on images I'd seen online and in store, I wasn't expecting to have as nice a paint detail on this figure as we're seeing here. I do think the makeup's still a little heavy on the head sculpt, but nowhere near as clownish as I've seen on other figures at retail. That said, I do have a little bit of paint slap on the right side of Rey's head where the hair touches her cheek. Coming down the torso of this figure, we can see some great sculpted fabric lines. There doesn't appear to be any sort of paint wash on this figure, and there's a bit of brown leathery detail on her left wrist. We then have some straps going around the waist. Coming down the rest of the figure, we've got more of that wrinkled fabric hanging over the legs, and finally some booties, I guess? Probably one of the weaker parts of her costume design if you ask me. On the reverse side of this figure, we have more of that wrinkled fabric detail coming down the rest of the figure, and then we have a nice sort of sculpted pouch off to the side. Not to be overlooked, Rey is also coming with a BB-8 droid accessory. Now there does appear to be sort of a black paint wash on the dome of BB-8 that seems a bit heavier on the head than it is on the body of the figure. But outside of that, the rest of the detail is sculpted wonderfully, and there's a ton of painted detail from the blue eye or whatever it is on the front of BB-8's face, to the dirt and the other sort of orange and silver paint markings that are going on the body of the figure. And all of that great attention to detail is maintained throughout. Also worth noting, this BB-8 figure is weighted, which I think is a great touch. You can rock him and roll him, and for the most part, he should stay standing up unless you intentionally want to knock him over. Finally, we come to the Poe Dameron character. Poe has got a flight suit very similar to what we saw Luke wearing in the original Star Wars trilogies, although the orange of the outfit does appear to be a bit darker than what we've seen previously. There is a paint wash running all over the white sort of jacket piece on the top half of this figure. There's also a Rebel Alliance logo on the left breast, and there's just a ton of paint detail all over this figure. From the console on the chest, to the tube coming out, to the buckles on his leg straps, to whatever the devices are attached to his left leg. There's not as much detail on the back of the figure, but we're still getting that great wash on the upper jacket piece. And then the helmet is pretty spectacular as well. It fits comfortably over Poe Dameron's head, and there is a ton of paint markings, red striping, the Rebel Alliance logo, and they've painted all of this detail on what appears to be a translucent yellow piece of plastic, which is great because now the visor on this helmet still works and you can actually see Poe Dameron's eyes through it. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I think the paint detail came out very nice on Poe Dameron's face. The eyes and the eyebrows have been painted on very cleanly, but he also has this very natural looking 5 o'clock shadow, which I think was a really nice touch on this figure. Moving on to the rest of the accessories these figures come with, Finn actually has a blaster rifle of some sort. It's kind of the same color as his jacket almost, with some silver paint detail. Looks pretty much the same on both sides, and Finn does have a blaster hand or a trigger hand that you can fit that weapon into. It doesn't fit as well into his left hand, but his right hand will hold it pretty nicely. And it is possible to get him in some two-handed positions. You'll just have to get creative with those elbow joints. They're not double jointed. Besides BB-8, Rey also comes with her staff that she has in the trailers. We don't really know a lot about this item, whether it fires any sort of blast or anything, or if it's just a battle staff of some sort. But it does have some paint detail that's been painted pretty nicely on here. And then there's this strap. Now this strap is obviously solid and in the same position. Probably means that the staff always needs to be held like this. I wish that would have been fabric so you could have thrown it over her shoulder a little bit easier. But she holds it well enough in her hand. You can just go ahead and stick it in there. And just kind of position the weapon to your liking. If it weren't for the BB-8 droid that Rey comes with, I would say Poe is probably the one that comes with the best accessories. He's got the helmet that we've already looked at, but he has some interchangeable hands. Now the hands that are on the figure don't have any wrist articulation, but these ones do. You can actually bend the hand back that far and down that far, and it rotates all the way around, on top of rotating on the peg for the interchangeable hand as well. And changing these hands aren't too difficult. You can just grab your Poe figure, pull the hand off at the joint. There we go, it pops off, and you can just grab the replaceable hand. And what's great about these hands once you get them on is that they actually have detail on them, so you can line them up with the sculpt of the figure. As you can see here, rotating the wrist around, there we go, it's lined up with the sculpt of the arm, and now you can continue to rotate your figure at the actual hand joint. We'll go ahead and change out the other one to show you how easy it is. Just pop off that glove, and you can pop in this other hand, and again, we have the same sort of costume detail continued on the arm. There we go, we've lined it up. And Poe actually has a working holster. You can pull out his sidearm and stick it into his hand. Just rotate it around there. You can see he does have a trigger finger, just like Finn does. And now we've got Poe poised to take out a stormtrooper. Now let's talk articulation. Largely the articulation is the same among these three figures, but there are some differences. Looking at Finn, he does have a head that looks left and right and can look up a little bit and down very far. He's got an upper diaphragm joint here that kind of rotates all the way around and serves as the waist swivel as well. His shoulder joint will rotate forward and backward, bend out from the body that far. He's got a single jointed elbow that bends up that far and down that far and rotates all the way around. He's got a wrist joint that'll rotate all the way around and then a hinge to move back that far and down that far. He's also got a ball jointed hip that'll bend forward that far, back that far, out from the body that far, for rotation here at the upper thigh, double jointed knee. Like to see those on the elbows if we could. And then a foot that will bend down that far, up that far, and has that Hasbro ankle pivot. So a great range of motion we're seeing here on Finn. Now when we look at the Rey figure, as I mentioned previously, the plastic is rather rigid on the sculpting of her outfit, so her legs are pretty hindered. The front leg here can go forward only about that far, back about that far. It's not really going out at all. I mean, they are somewhat soft, so you can move them around, but her legs are just not going to move the way we see with Finn or even Poe Dameron here to the right. So let's talk about Poe. Like we have with Rey, who's got these fabric pieces hanging down, Poe has all these belts hanging down, but unlike Rey, these belts are not restrictive really at all. The leg will still go forward pretty far. It'll go out from the body pretty far, farther than Rey's legs will. The belts do eventually catch it, but the leg can go back far enough. It's kind of hindered more by the sculpt of the figure than it is the belts. And then the diaphragm joint will rotate pretty freely. That tubing does not get in the way. He does seem to have a waist swivel, but I can't get it to turn at all. So the articulation on these guys is pretty good. Not quite up to Marvel Legends standards, but not bad either. Height-wise, these figures do vary in size. Finn comes in just a little bit under 6 inches. Rey is coming in at about 5.5 inches. Poe Dameron's closer to 6 inches, and it looks like BB-8's right around 2.5. For some size comparison, here they are compared to the Star Wars Black Series First Order Stormtrooper that I've already reviewed. And here they are compared to the 6-inch scale Marvel Legends Infinite Series Wolverine.
Yeah! Which one of you space cases decided to bring Alpha 5?
Oh, the droid? He came along with those two. Wait a minute, you just made a Power Rangers reference? And it wasn't at my expense. It's finally over! I cannot tell you how happy this makes me.
Relax, Ivan, I was just being nice.
Alright, toy fans, well that's my review of the 6-inch Star Wars Black Series Finn, Rey, and Poe Dameron figures released by Hasbro in 2015. Overall, these are some pretty great figures available for The Force Awakens. Some are definitely better than others, and if I had to pick my least favorite of the set, I'd definitely be going with Rey. You can't deny the BB-8 accessory that she comes with, and maybe that's why they've chosen to pack it in. But the figure can be frustrating to pose, and overall there's not a lot going on with her. Finn is a solid figure overall, both in sculpt work and painting, but I do wish he came with more accessories. At the end of the day, if you can only pick one figure between the three of these, I'm giving my recommendation to Poe Dameron. He's got a lot of costume detail, and I love the interchangeable hands and the other accessories he's coming with. Pick him up at full price if you can find him. Currently, Finn is a pretty heavy peg warmer, and that may change after the film releases, but frankly, Rey at this point is just very uninteresting to me. If you're trying to track down those two figures, I would recommend to go ahead and pick them up at sale price wherever you can find them available. Well, thanks for watching this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and a special thanks to Jeff for sending these figures along for a review. Which figure of the three do you like the most? Let me know in the comments below. If you like what you saw here, guys, go ahead and give me a like, and be sure to subscribe to keep up with all my new content. And if you want more, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at D21Beast. Thanks for watching, guys, and may the Force be with you.